Adit Kundra. Welcome to the channel Kahani's Golden Bytes. Thank you for taking your time to be on the channel, Adit.
Thank you so much, Joby. Pleasure being here.
Thank you, Adit, once again. Adit, for the benefit of our viewers, may I please request you to give a little background about yourself, what you're doing right now, Adit?
Sure. My name is Adit Kundra. I am a musician and a music educator, and I do a little bit of online content creation, primarily on YouTube. So yeah, that's what I do.
So Adit, we get a little more into that space, Adit, because I'm very inquisitive. I want to know more about you on that front. Yeah. But before I get there, Adit, something that caught my attention and which I had no clue about. Okay, you've done your MBA too, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And you were, I'm using the past tense, you were in the corporate space.
That's right.
Work for some of the biggest FMCG companies in the country, right? So tell me a little bit about that, Adit. So you did your MBA and you started working. What is that? Is that correct?
So I actually, all right. So I did my mechanical engineering back in 2004. So I graduated in 2004, and I worked with Voltas in Bombay for 2 years. I was in key accounts. So straight away into sales right after engineering. And then 2006 is when I decided to pursue an MBA, and I did that from MDI Gurgaon. Graduated in 2008 and got placed with Procter & Gamble. So I worked with them for about 8 years. And yeah, so actually I worked earlier, and then I did my MBA, and then PNG happened. Yes. And then after about eight and a half years is when my wife and I decided to quit our jobs, and we wanted to volunteer and also travel at the same time. So we did a backpacking trip around Southeast Asia for about 5 or 6 months. And that's when we just fell in love with Vietnam. So decided to move to Vietnam permanently. And so we were there for another 3 years. I worked with some pretty big names in Vietnam as well. And after 2 years of corporate life, I decided to, just call it quits and get into music full time.
So you were, Adit, a mechanical engineer.
That's right.
Did your MBA. Okay. So I'm just trying to, tell myself this, so that, I've understood it and letting it sink in. And then you work for companies that people would give an arm and a leg. Okay. And to get in there. And you were successful. You were in sales and FMCG, retail, you move overseas.
That's right.
And you were the country manager there too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I was with AB InBev, with Budweiser, and so AB InBev is like the world's largest brewer. And yeah, so they have brands like Budweiser, Hoegaarden, Stella Artois, beer company.
And you're growing their markets. And these are P&L accountability that you have. And these are multi-million dollars, okay? Right?
That's right.
And this I say because I've read a little bit. I said, I got to have some meaningful conversation here beyond the, the music that you love, just to get a hang of it. So otherwise I wouldn't have known. You're just brushing that aside, and that is such an important aspect, which the normal, view wouldn't be to link that kind of a profile with music in the way, you have, And so you have a lovely, successful corporate life, overseas posting, country manager, you have things going for you there. And then you decided to get into music. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. In a sense, yeah. So tell me, what drove you into the space of music when you were, having, a job that's successful, climbing the corporate ladder where there are lots of perks and benefits, given that you perform, and obviously you were performing, you wouldn't have got those kind of assignments if you didn't. And these were the biggest companies in the world too, that you're working for and working with them. So what is the shift there? What drove you into music from there, Adit?
So Jovi, I was always into music. I mean, even in school, I was in the school choir, and I was earlier a vocalist, but then I started learning the guitar back in 2000. Sorry, back in 2000. Yeah. So when I was 18 years of age is when I actually got into learning the guitar, and that completely changed my life. Even when I started working with Voltas back in 2004, I mean, I wanted to get into music, but then I knew that I didn't really have. I mean, I didn't really know any musician. I didn't really know any professional musician. So I knew lots of people who were actually working in the corporate space, but were doing music on the sides, right? So I just assumed that maybe that's the right path for me as well, which is, you know, to work in a company and just practice a little bit of music later on at night or during the weekends. So that was my reality for me. And I was in sales, and I was really enjoying sales as well. So once I did my MBA, I got through PNG. So it was a dream company for a lot of people, a lot of my friends as well. So, you know, I just felt that, you know, this is what I'm destined to do. And but at the end of the day, there was always a feeling in me that, you know, music is something which is music was my calling. I mean, but I never really had, honestly, I didn't really have the guts to make that move. And, you know, like you said, so PNG is a great brand. It's extremely employee friendly, great work culture, very good perks as well. So, you know, I was so comfortable with the PNG way of living that, you know, I never really thought of quitting my job. But then 2016 is when, you know, like I shared with you earlier, my wife and I decided that, okay, we've had enough. So let's just try quitting our jobs and do that volunteering thing. And I also had this confidence at the end of the day that, you know, I have the right skills, right? So even if traveling doesn't really work out well, I can always find another job, and, you know, maybe the salary might not be the same, but I can always get into the corporate life whenever I want, because, you know, both of us have the right kind of skills. So I would say that, you know, as they say, the first step is the hardest. So that was the first time I actually quit a proper corporate job. So, you know, once that happened is when I just felt that, you know, I was free. So even though I actually went back to corporate life, I had some reasons why I had to actually do that. But again, you know, music was something that I always wanted to get into, and building capability is something that has always fascinated me. So teaching is something that I'm really passionate about. And I just set a goal for myself, which was X number. So, you know, the amount of money that I wanted to keep as investments, and how much money I wanted to keep as an emergency fund. And once I hit that number, is when I decided to just call it quits and get into music full time and just give it a shot. You know, because I had been teaching earlier as well. I mean, in the past 20 years, I was still teaching music, but it was during the weekends. I wasn't really a full-time instructor. But yeah, once I reached that savings figure is when I decided to, you know, just get into music full time and give it one final shot. And here I am. It's been about 2 years now, and I'm having a lot of fun.
So Adit, you know, this is you're teaching an instrument, Adit, in your
That's
YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
So I teach the guitar.
You teach the guitar.
That's right.
And that is how I discovered you, Adit. You know, I was, you know, on YouTube, you know, looking up some music, you know, related clips. And I had a recommendation as the AI works, and here there was, and I happened to, you know, check out one or two of your videos, and I said, wow, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed it, Adit. And I said, you know, I said, I must find out more. And I've saved some of the URLs for all times, you know. And one of the things that struck me was, Adit, is it's in Hindi you're doing, you know. And why do I say that? Because you taught in English overseas too, as an English teacher. And now you have a YouTube channel where you're teaching the guitar, and it's in Hindi. What was the driver for that, Adit?
Interesting. So Jovi, I think I have around 450 or maybe 500 videos on my YouTube channel. And the first 150 odd videos are all in English. So I started off in English, but then I just realized that my audience was primarily the Hindi speaking kids. And that's why the shift happened. And interestingly, I actually made a video as well in which I announced that from now onwards, all the content is going to be in Hindi. But yeah, I actually started off in English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. And, you know, and some of the, you know, the videos that I've seen at random, you're teaching theory.
Okay. Yeah.
You're teaching Hindi songs, some of the film songs, etc. And you're trying to also use jazz. I've seen, some of them where you're teaching jazz.
That's right.
Chords, and you're explaining it.
Yeah.
And you're jazzing up the Hindi songs.
That's true. That's something which, guilty as charged.
Unique, Absolutely. And one of the things that I liked, Adit, is that, you actually make it very simple. There's a lot of knowledge you're sharing. You're comparing to guitars, but you've gone beyond the comparison of guitars. You go into a little bit of history and whys and, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not, a string to string or the wood to wood of the guitar.
That's right.
Right? You're going beyond of that. So Adit, your subscriber base has crossed 200,000, 2 lakh?
Yeah.
Right? Wow, that's amazing. So how has this, the recent times been, Adit, when it comes to, your YouTube classes, etc.? You also have classes, right? Besides having it?
I do. Yeah.
And how can one, join those classes? You have they need to log in. How does it work?
Okay. So you actually talked about a couple of things, so I'll just address those as well. So Joby, I have the one thing that really worked well for me when I was learning guitar is the fact that, I was always listening to stuff which was beyond the simpler things, so I was always trying out things which were really difficult. And I've always believed that is the quickest way for anybody to learn. If you try to reach the next level, things are going to be a lot smoother in terms of your learning journey. And I believe that jazz is something which is extremely important from a building musicianship standpoint. Because there's a lot of intricacies that if you don't really need to be a jazz listener or an appreciator of jazz music, but if you start working on those techniques, playing regular stuff will be a lot easier. So that's the only reason why I always try to plug in some, jazz chords in my lessons. And again, at the end of the day, it's also about creating a point of differentiation for yourself, because, there are lots of very good YouTube instructors, guitar instructors. But again, it's just about carving a niche for yourself, which is why, I try to use a lot of jazz and I try to get a lot of theory into my lessons just to create that differentiation. And with respect to, comparing guitars and, talking about things which are, the history and all, again, it's got something to do with differentiation. But I would say the fact that, I was in a corporate life, I was working in a corporate sector for about 13, 14 odd years. It has actually helped bring a little more structure in my thinking. So every time I'm doing like a comparison between guitars, or even if I'm delivering a lecture, I always have a structure in mind that, this is what the natural flow needs to be. This is what will ensure that the student actually understands things the best way. So I always try to go from really beginner level stuff and gradually build it up in terms of difficulty. So that structure is something that has been thanks to my corporate stint. Yeah. In terms of the classes, yes. So currently what I do is I don't really do a lot of private classes. So I started a music school of mine in the month of July last year. So I have group classes every Sunday, and so that's how it works.
And they can enroll, through your website to a YouTube channel.
Correct. So my school's name is musiceducademy.com.
Okay.
And
I'll put it in the. I'll put that in the.
That'll be excellent. Thank you so much, Joby. So anybody can enroll. So it's a monthly membership, and once you become a member, you get access to a lot of content, a lot of my courses, and you also get to be a part of those weekly live classes that I do every Sunday.
So Adit, how did your family take this decision of, ladke ko padhaya, he's a brilliant guy, he's, he's done so well, sensible, and he changes. How did your family respond or, to this? I'm not getting to your friends and colleagues at the moment, but how did your dearest, closest family members respond to your decision?
Yeah. So for example, my wife has been extremely supportive. So even, I would say that Joby, honestly, getting into music wasn't really that big a decision for me. But when I quit PNG and we decided to, travel, that was something which was a little harder. It was a pill which was really hard to swallow for a lot of my folks. Because, again, the funny thing is, I don't really expect my parents to understand because they belong to a different generation, and for them, financial security is everything, right? And I totally get it. But then, that decision is something which took a lot of convincing from my side. But yeah, they at the end of the day, they just agreed with me that, I've been working for quite some time. So, even if I just quit my corporate life for a couple of months, that won't really be that big a problem. And my wife is very supporting because she had to actively participate in that as well. And then later on in 2019, when I actually quit corporate life for good, that is when, they kind of knew that, he will just, in the sense that they knew that I would actually end up doing something that, I want to do. So, and again, my wife is very supportive. So yeah, it's pretty easy.
Wonderful, Adit. I've taken a lot of your time. I want to thank you for this lovely conversation, though very short. We could have carried on, but thank you once again, Adit, for taking your time to be on the channel.
Thank you so much for having me, Joby. It's my pleasure.